Jordan Love has been perhaps the most disappointing player in the NFL this season, as he had top five potential entering this year and has been, as you can see, about average. That's super disappointing because Love has all of the physical traits and he's not mentally poor. He is a quick processor and is more than capable of making all of the right reads. He just sometimes gets a little bit too dangerous and makes or attempts to make throws that he probably shouldn't. With that said, he has a pretty small range from a five stat perspective where that shows he's pretty consistent in being average to this point. I don't think that is to lock him in to being average, though, because what we saw last year, I think, is to be believed in that he can be an elite quarterback. It's just to this point in this season, he hasn't been. With that said, if you're unfamiliar with expected points added plus completion percentage over expected or success rate, be sure to check out the videos I've done on them. They are two of the absolute best stats in football because they can help define how well a quarterback, offense, and defense is performing. So they're super versatile and they'll be used throughout this video. One thing that the Packers surely have going for them is they have an absolutely elite offensive line, especially in the pass blocking department, where they rank fifth in pass protection when combining PFF's pass blocking team grade with ESPN's pass blocking win rate. That is elite stuff. And I can't remember who it is. No, it is. It's ESPN. They're a little bit lower on them. So if they were as high on them as PFF is, they would be the number one team by far. So they're really, really good at pass protection. Jordan Morgan is hurt, which is not ideal. That hurts their depth a good bit, but they should still be pretty darn solid. Moving to their weapons now, they have really good weapons and they're really deep. They are sensationally young, also. The oldest guy in the room is probably like 25. It's incredible how much talent they've accumulated in a short period of time. I would say their number one guy is Jordan Reed. He's 24th in yards per game and 9th in yards per reception. So he's absolutely elite in both regards. He's a great deep downfield burner, as evident by being 9th in yards per reception, but he can also make plays in the short to intermediate parts of the field. Romeo Doubs, he's arguably their second receiver. It's really hard to say because they have so many good guys. Dobbs is 52nd in yards per game and 35th in yards per reception. Another guy that can win deep downfield, which it's kind of dangerous that they win deep downfield as much as they do because that makes Love even more enticed to throw deep downfield. So it's a little bit dangerous, but if they can find a way to reel in Love's appetite for danger, they're just going to be so incredibly good. Their third receiver, Christian Watson, is 64th in yards per game and third in yards per reception. So the best out of anyone in winning deep downfield, at least with regularity. He is the least consistent in his yardage, though. So there's kind of a give and a take with all of these players, except for with Reed, who is just completely elite in both regards. But their third receiver could be a number two receiver for a lot of teams. Watson is that good. Their tight end, Tucker Kraft, he's 80th in yards per game and 40th in yards per reception, which is really good stuff. I have the cutoff as 113, meaning 3 of the receivers for each team. So 3 times 32 is 96, and then 17 tight ends. He's well above that in both regards. 40 is exceptional for yards per reception for a tight end. They just do not get that deep in general. But Kraft is very capable as a receiver in that regard. Something they have going for them additionally is a bit divisive. Their rushing game. They are 10th in rushing expected points added, so that's really good. That's right on the cusp of being truly elite. But then they're 20th in rushing success rate, which means they're not consistently having great plays, which is a bit confusing because Josh Jacobs, to me, would make more sense to be having the opposite season, where Jacobs is a kind of slow but very talented running back that you would expect to not break off long runs, but to consistently have good success. So it's kind of backwards, but it works out. They have success going on. Defensively, they are all over the place. They are 10th again in defensive expected points added. They are super consistent in their expected points added. But they are 29th in defensive success rate, which means, again, play by play, they're getting smashed, but they're not giving up long plays. So I guess that's a good thing. I would say defensively, they are the most mixed bag of talent you'll see in the entire league. And it's kind of hilarious, in fact. They have 5 above average defenders, in my opinion, with Xavier McKinney being their best player overall. He is one of, I'd say, the 3 best safeties in football. He's elite in coverage, really good in run defense, super good. Their other safety, Evan Williams, is elite in coverage and all right as a run defender. So that's good stuff. That makes sense then, I guess, looking at it, why they're not giving up big plays. They have good safety contributions. Then, as a cornerback, Jair Alexander is an elite athlete with great coverage skills. He's super talented. Rashawn Gary, their edge rusher, he could be a small defensive tackle. I love his build. He's about 277 pounds, let's say. He's a great run defender, and he's all right as a pressure getter. I think he's been a little bit disappointing this year in that regard, but overall, he's still a really, really good edge rusher. Carl Brooks is sort of the opposite of Gary. He's solid as a pressure getter and very bad as a run defender. So they balance each other out a little bit. They can play on the same side and you'll cover all your bases rather nicely. And then as for their defense of players that are not contributing very much, they have 6 poor defenders. That means all 11 of their players are either very good or rather poor. That is so rare. I I've been doing this for over 20 teams now, and I don't think I've seen that once where every player is in their lane as being really good or really bad. As for their poor defenders, Nickelback Javon Bullard is very poor in coverage. He's a good run defender, but he's very poor in coverage, which if you could just be one, it'd be better to be good at coverage. Kenny Clark, he's been poor in both regards this year, meaning he hasn't been good as a run defender or as a pass rusher, which is disappointing because he's a very talented player. Lucas Van Ness, one of the best athletes in all of football. He ran like a 4.55 40, and I would say he's about Rashawn Gary's size. He might be a fair bit smaller, but he's got to be at least 260, I'd say. So he's a big edge as well. He is just practically useless, though. He can't defend the run, he can't pressure the passer. It's really rough. Keyshawn Nixon, he's poor in coverage. That holds the team back further. It gives them another target. And then their biggest weaknesses are at linebacker, which is kind of funny because they've poured so many resources at linebacker to no avail. Linebacker Isaiah McDuffie, he's poor as a coverage defender and against the run. And Quay Walker is very poor against the run. So they have some real issues. Overall, their defense could be worse. They do have a lot of star talent that mitigates the poor defenders, but the poor defenders are going to also, mitigate the star defenders. Overall, the Packers are a definitive Super Bowl contender with the chance to have a top maybe 3 offense in the league. If Love is at his best, they have great quarterback play. Matt LaFleur, awesome coach, really knows his stuff. Great running game, at least potentially. And then great receivers also. Defensively, again, there's a lot to like, there's a lot to not like. Those are my thoughts on the Packers. Be sure to let me know what yours are in the comment section. And also be sure to like and subscribe for more NFL content.